My guy in D.C. tells me that we are not dealing with the student here. We're dealing with the professor. Anytime the military has an operation that can't fail, they call this guy in to train the troops, okay? He's the kind of guy that would drink a gallon of gasoline so he could piss in your campfire. You could drop this guy off at the Arctic Circle wearing a pair of bikini underwear without his toothbrush, and tomorrow afternoon he's going to show up at your poolside with $1 million smile and a fistful of pesos. This guy's a professional, you got me? If he reaches this rig, we're all going to be nothing but a big goddamn hole right in the middle of Alaska.
Everybody knows I'm here.
Well, I hope you guys are pumped after seeing that intro. I mean, like, Steven Segal at his absolute peak. What can I say? It is a pleasure, everyone, to have you here tonight to do this happy hour. It has been a while since we've done a happy hour, actually, so good to be back doing it. And who better to talk about a Steven Segal movie than the true connoisseur of all things Steven Segal related? It is the one and only Space Ice. Welcome back, my friend. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, sir. I'm very sad that that's true, that I'm a Seagal connoisseur. Very depressing.
At what point in your life did you realize that he was the greatest man who ever is, was, or ever would act?
I think that's an innate thing. I think we're just born with that.
You just know.
You just know. Before he even made a movie, you knew.
Yeah. No, well, we were kind of talking a little bit and spitballing ideas about what Seagal movies we might talk about this evening, and I know there was a few possibilities, but you know, I think with On Deadly Ground, it's actually quite an interesting one to talk about, almost as much because of what was going on around this movie and what it did, I guess, for Seagal's career, or didn't do, as the case may be, because, like, you know, when this movie came to be, like, he was at the peak, I suppose, of his career. You know, he'd just done Under Siege, and that was a massive success. You know, he'd had, you know, a string of, like, smaller, like, action thrillers back in the late 80s. He was kind of a latecomer to, like, the action craze, but, you know, he got in there. He was a bit of a dark horse, I suppose. And then he did Under Siege, which was, like, the first big budget action movie that the studio really threw their weight behind, and it was a success, and it kind of established him as potentially a viable action star for the 90s. And so the question, I suppose, was, how are we going to follow that up? What do we do next? And that's when old Steven decided, I'm not just gonna star in this movie, I'm gonna direct it as well. And
yeah, I guess he was supposed to actually direct another movie that ended up falling through. I guess they didn't have a lot of faith in him, and then Under Siege came out, and they said, "Oh shit, this guy's legit."
yes, I think they pair him up with Steven D'Souza or someone like that, and
Yes.
like, yeah, that didn't play out well because they didn't get along with each other, and so yeah, they tried to decide on what to do next, and I think he picked this script specifically because Clint Eastwood really wanted to do it. This has been doing the rounds at Warner Brothers, and Clint Eastwood was a big fan of it, and the character originally was kind of written with him in mind. He was going to be a hard-drinking, hard-bitten, kind of like hard-boiled, grizzled character that was just right in Clint Eastwood's wheelhouse. And Seagal really fucking hated Clint Eastwood because they were rivals at Warner Brothers. Like, they were both like two pretty big stars that were well established there.
Yeah,
and
I mean, Eastwood has talent, so Seagal
exactly
automatically hate them.
The problem is, like, I think the last movie that he directed had bombed. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but yeah, Seagal decided he was going to get revenge on him by taking this script that he wanted to do and directing it, even though he'd never directed a movie or a TV show or anything in his life. He was going to do it, and by God, did he do it.
He definitely did it. I would say this is unique for Seagal movies in that he's written other ones and he's been in control of other ones, but you can see when you watch them, he does not give a shit about them, which is mind-blowing to me, how you can write a movie and not give a shit if it's good or bad.
Yeah.
But he's got a history. If he just leaves, like, well, we haven't finished the movie, but he's gone and he's not coming back. So, like, they got to fill it in with, you know, body doubles that look nothing like him. Like, it's insane, this guy's lack of work ethic. But in this movie, he actually tried. This is the only one he's actually tried in that he actually put together. And
I think
It shows.
Oh yeah, because I think as well that you can almost chart his lack of interest in the movies by his like waistline, and as he's gotten bigger over the years, like the amount of work that he's put into the movies has just declined, and I think this is the last time that he looked like to be in relatively good shape. Like I kind of recall like after this he did like Under Siege 2. And I remember looking at him like, oh, piling on the beef there, aren't we, Stephen? Like,
Yeah,
he was noticeably bigger, and then it just got worse throughout the 90s.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, a latecomer to the action game. He was almost 40 when he first started, so he wasn't like a young guy that just got out of shape young. He was getting older. Like he got older fast because he was already older.
He was, yeah. When you first saw him, he was a pretty unlikely star, I suppose, because he didn't have the muscles of like Stallone or Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, tall and
he didn't really. Yeah, he was like quite noticeably losing his hair already, like just when he was starting out, and like fucking hell.
Oh, his hair's had its own career arc. It's amazing.
Oh yeah. Now it's just like again, his hairline doesn't give a fuck either. It's just really spray on. Yeah. And he didn't necessarily have the charisma or the big personality of other stars. He was just this very soft-spoken guy, and it's like, how the hell did you become a star? But
he was different. I think he was just different. That is not something I think we really saw with somebody like him. And I don't think people realized at the time this is all he can do. They thought, okay, well, this is cool. He's this unique thing we don't really see much. We don't really see Aikido much. It's usually like the Van Damme jump spin kicks or the muscle bound Arnold just overpowering people. He walks in and just kind of flips his arms around and people just go flying, and like, wow, that looks real, I guess, because there's no MMA back then, so people thought, oh wow, that's how fights really go, is just like that.
Yeah, because I guess he had a certain amount of like confidence to him that like comes through in the characters he plays. Arguably, way too much confidence, which
way too much confidence.
But yeah, I can see why the thinking at the time was in the early 90s, especially like, okay, the big muscle men of the 80s are kind of out of fashion now. Like times are changing. We need something else that's going to drive action movies now. And maybe guys like him and Van Damme are the future. Like, the martial arts guys, they're a bit like, they're not as huge and bulky and cartoonish as these other dudes. Like there's something a bit different and new. And maybe that's the way it's going to go. And, you can see the thinking behind it. And they gave him way too much control on this movie, and it shows. I mean, I guess for the brief rundown of it, he plays Forrest Taft, which I think is just, it's a perfect name. I tried to compile a list of all the characters that he played with like just incredible names like that. The best I could give you was Mason Storm, Nico Toscani, Gino Felino, Casey Ryback. What else have we got?
Marshall
Frank
Lawson.
Glass. What's that?
Marshall Lawson. He's been there a few times.
Yeah. Travis Hunter, Jonathan Cold. There's he's been that guy a few times actually.
Yeah, he has a thing where he decides this is going to be a sequel to some other movie, and it'll have no connection or anything other than the name. He's done that multiple times.
Right. Okay. Rogelio Torres. Yeah, he's had a lot, but I think Forrest Taft might be one of my favorites. Like he originally had a different name, but then because Segal got on board, he decided he wanted to be more eco-friendly. So a greener sort of name. So he just went with Forrest, which is it's pretty on the nose.
Yeah, this movie he has these phases. He's like a kid where he like sees something and then he's just really into it for a little bit and then just goes away. This was Segal with his environmentalism.
Yeah,
he was super into the environment for like 2 years and then has never mentioned it since.
Well, he didn't need to, because this movie saved the environment by blowing up massive pieces of it. Yeah, well, we're here because of Segal, and like, thank you, Stephen, for saving us.
Thank you, Stephen.
But yeah, he plays Forrest Taft, who seems to be kind of like a demolition expert or something for like an oil company, and they are exploiting the pristine wilderness of Alaska, and they have got a problem because they have to get their new oil platform online within like 2 weeks or something. Otherwise, they lose all their licenses and they can't drill anymore. So
they're oil rights to all of Alaska, I guess, because that's how that works.
Pretty much, and it reverts to like the Eskimos who live there, and so they because of that they're using substandard parts in their and when this rig actually goes online, it's probably going to blow up and cause an ecological disaster. But Michael Caine, he doesn't give a shit. He's just all about making money, killing.
Michael Caine's amazing in this. I love Michael Caine in this movie. He makes it for me. I've
got a couple of like little clips of him here. I have to be really careful about what I can show. In fact, that intro is probably enough to get this stream demonetized already, so I'll have to probably cut it out later. But yeah, like he comes in here. Hold on, let's see if I can show you.
Because your goddamn pal Jennings lousy.
Your goddamn pal Jennings lousy what, Hugh?
Hugh's been getting sloppy lately, hasn't he?
My oil is flowing all over the ocean instead of into my refinery where it's worth money to me. I'll have Eskimos and environmentalists probing all the orifices of my body for the next 2 weeks.
He occasionally tries a little bit of an American accent, and then he just goes back to being Michael Caine again. There's
no reason to try. He realizes, why am I trying? Nobody else is.
Why bother? Yeah. He did say, actually, after this movie, I broke the cardinal rule of bad movies that if you're going to be in one, at least film it in a nice place, like a nice location. Yes. Referencing Jaws: The Revenge, which they filmed in the Bahamas, and he had a great old time doing that, but not so much this one, because Segal insisted on filming in Alaska for doing this, and the weather problems, as you can imagine, made
there were wildlife issues too. The animal, like, there's just a lot of issues from the need to do this in Alaska, because that's the only place you're going to have snow is Alaska.
Clearly, there's nowhere else on the planet has it. But yeah, anyway, so he's this firefighter guy, and whenever an oil rig blows up or something, or they have an oil spill, he comes in and fixes it by blowing it up somehow, and that's okay.
So the insanity of that is, how many fires do they have that he's full time putting out their fires? That is insane.
Yeah,
and not even that. He's not even at the rig. He's there to put out fires at the rig, and they have to fly him in because who knows where he's at.
Yeah, let's see if I've got anything here for it. I'm going to put it on mute just because, copyrights and all that. Yeah, it's on fire and blowing up. I think my favorite bit is when he dismounts from the chopper, and anytime you see that, right, tassels like this on a man's outfit, you know you're in for something truly special.
Yeah.
And yeah, there we get him. Look at that outfit.
And what he does, so it's true they do use explosives to put out fires like that. Obviously not the big Hollywood fireball explosions. That's not going to put out a fire. But they do use explosions. And what he does is he just walks up and sticks his face in it, because that's not going to kill you. You're not going to get like toxic fumes and just die on the spot. So he just sticks his face in it and says, okay, go down a little bit. Because they did everything. They just have to lower the barrel like 6 inches. He walks in, lower it. Okay, 6 inches, you're good. All right. Then he hits a button.
Yeah. It's like they couldn't figure this out by themselves.
And you hear it. They ADR and a bunch of like, oh shit, Seagal's here. That fire's out. Like people at the peanut gallery just always shouting how badass he is. You get more of it in the bar scene. Just every time there's a group of people, someone's yelling about how badass Segal is.
Yeah, I mean the most gratuitous one, I guess, was R. Lee Ermey, where he just straight up sucks his dick for about 2 minutes straight. Like, this man is the most badass man on the planet.
Yeah.
You can stick him on the surface of Mars and he'd show up at your house the next day as a billionaire. It's just like, it's a bit unnecessary at that point in the movie.
And another thing you get with Seagal movies is seeing someone like R. Lee Ermey there, and you're just like, why would you subject yourself to this? Don't you have self-respect, dignity?
A legit badass, actually. I mean, obviously,
but you get that a lot in Seagal movies, and you're like, oh my, why are you here? Stop it. I used to like you. Stop it. Like, that is a very common theme in Seagal movies.
Yeah. I mean, with this one especially, right, they assembled a decent cast for this. They had Michael Caine, they had R. Lee Ermey, they had a very young Billy Bob Thornton for some reason, who gets like this weird cameo.
Fifth build, and he has 2 lines.
Yeah. And they had, was it John C. McGinley as well?
Yep, John McGinley.
And
you have Sven Thorsen, which isn't a huge name, but he's been in like every action movie ever.
He's in every Arnold movie as some kind of stuntman or whatever. And he has the most clumsy fight ever with Segal. I tried to find the clip before we did this, but I couldn't locate it.
He takes the Glock and he's like hip firing like it's a machine gun. His little 9mm. Yeah, that's very impressive.
But Yeah, it's funny, right? Because the first, I don't know, 20 minutes or so of this movie are okay. This is the weird thing. It lulls you into a false sense of security. It's a
Is it
standard Seagal flick. Like,
is
there's
it
nothing.
okay?
Well, I mean, it's dumb, but like, it's not gratuitously terrible.
It's enjoyably dumb. It's
Yeah,
very
it's just like,
enjoyably dumb. It's like this is so bad it's good for a little bit. Yeah. Before it
because
gets
you've got,
super boring in the middle.
yeah, you got some nice explosions and stuff. You've got like a little bit of corporate espionage going on when they discover like this company's up to no good. You got a bar fight, which is
The whole
like,
bar scene is one of so bad it's good, like Hall of Fame. Just
it's
that entire
so,
scene.
yeah, because like that whole bit is totally unnecessary. The only thing that's going on there is like the foreman of the drill rig has to convey to Seagal, like, look, something's up with this company. Like all their equipment is failing its safety tests and stuff. I want you to look into it for me.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? Then he gets into this big old bar brawl with like some assholes from the company that are like harassing a local Eskimo.
Young Michael Jai White was one of them. You can barely see him, but he's in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's talked about how Seagal wanted them to, like Big Mike and all them, they're supposed to be like white supremacists. And he said, well, why am I with them? They're white supremacists. So I guess they changed it to the whole Native American thing.
Yeah. But again, like he's got that kind of cocky, overconfident Steven Seagal thing going, where he's like he challenges the guy to a slap fight for some reason. I've never seen that happen in a bar brawl in my life. But the guy goes along with it and just beats the shit out of him, like step by step, and then just walks away.
You get more of the ADR. Fuck him up, Forrest. Oh, he don't know who he's messing with. Just like piping in from somewhere that someone's yelling as Seagal's walking through the bar.
Yeah, and you get the feeling this happens a lot because I think the bartender, like who's there, she's like, "Don't you destroy my bar again? I told you, I've warned you about this."
And then she gives like the roll eyes, like not again when he starts knocking over tables.
Yeah, and he destroys a jukebox, and man, those things are expensive. Like
he attacks an 80-year-old man. I don't know if you saw that part, but they play it in slow motion. The guy like can't move. He's old as shit, and he just walks up, knees him in the nuts, and then like throws him to the ground. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Steven Seagal is like, he doesn't discriminate based on age, gender, race, anything. He is an equal opportunity destroying machine. But yeah, it's enough to, like, as I was saying, it's just stuff that adds a little bit of your typical action movie elements, like stock elements, a barroom brawl, corporate espionage, like shady goings on that the main character gets drawn into, and a few nice explosions and stuff. Then it goes into really weird fucking territory where he gets taken out to this other rig that's apparently got a problem with it. It's like leaking toxic gas or something. You know, Michael Caine knows that he's been snooping around, like downloading computer files and stuff.
Well, I think he confronted him. Like, Seagal confronted him at some press conference about it.
Well, I guess because they had Michael Caine, right, available, they use him in fucking everything. Like, this guy is involved in the most minute moments of this company's goings on, and he goes to every event that takes place. He's always there just because it's Michael Caine. I suppose you might as well use him.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, he accesses the computer, right, and he finds out that all the equipment on this new oil rig that they're building is going to fail because it's all substandard stuff. And then like you say, he confronts Michael Caine. So it's like kind of an unnecessary extra bit where he's like, yeah, you guys are going to ruin everything. Like, this is going to cause a disaster. And it's like, oh, well, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, wouldn't you know it, another problem's come up and we need you to go out into the middle of nowhere to fix it. Nothing bad will happen to you, I promise. Then,
they set that up fast. That was real fast that because they have the old man's dead in there. They have explosives everywhere in there, like on the little setup. The explosion doesn't kill him somehow. The explosion sends him flying about 50 yards. Then they leave. Then like a week later, they come back to look for him.
Yeah, I never quite understood that.
Yeah, I don't know why they left just to come back and look for him. And when they come back and he's not there, they should be like, okay, something's up. They just figure, oh, he's got to be dead out here somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
I will say as well, right? For the, like, You know how the lack of like emotion that Segal puts into his role in this, as with every film, really.
Yes, he's a
I
master of not emoting.
I can only say that like John McGinley must have felt like he had to compensate for that, because holy fuck, does this guy go for it in like every scene he's in? I don't know
Yeah.
how to describe it except that his character is like super invested in fucking everything that happens. Like he is really emotionally involved. Like there's the scene where they're torturing the old guy for information, and it's literally just, we just need to get some computer files from him. We just need to find out where it is. You know, it's really just not personal, it's business, but he makes it serious. Like, let's see if we can find it here.
God, stupid shit. There is no I in team. It is T-E-A-M.
No!
Oh, that's the sort of one. That is acting right there. But yeah, he's just screaming at the dude, like, you know, like he needs this information. God damn it, he needs these computer files.
Yeah, I'd say most people other than Segal do an amazing job in this. The Michael Caine when he's yelling at the makeup people, that's one of my favorite scenes. He just goes off on this makeup lady, and that is incredible. I don't know.
Again, I don't know why that scene's even happening. Like she's smearing all this Vaseline or something.
He just got white shit all over his face for the rest of the scene, and he's screaming at everyone. It's hilarious. It's perfect.
It's like they put all the personality into the villains. Like they get more character development, I think, than the actual heroes of the story. It's amazing.
That's a theme in most Seagal movies.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single one where he's more interesting than the villain.
You could almost recut them as like he is the villain, and like these guys are like the tragic. These are the tragic heroes that are desperately trying to stand against him because he's coming to destroy everything that they love. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so you know they go out to this drilling rig or whatever out in the middle of nowhere. It blows up, almost kills him, but doesn't. Then they just leave because they assume he's probably dead. That's good enough. And then the Eskimos find him, and he goes on like a vision quest with them. And I can't even show it because there's so much nudity in it. And the weird thing is, right, when I watched this as a kid, it was on TV with like my dad, probably like when I was, I don't know, maybe 13, 14 years old. And so we got like the edited for TV cut. And so all that stuff was cut out of it. And it wasn't until I rewatched it the other day that I got the full uncensored version. And it's like, oh, right, there's just the woman there, fully frontal nude. Just, of course.
And then I thought, super old lady for some reason. None of it makes any sense. I have no idea what he's supposed to be doing. And then he hops out of a river. Well, first he attacks a bear. I don't know why he attacks a bear. He attacks a bear. He tries stabbing the shit out of it with a knife. The bear does what bears do. They throw him like 50 yards in the air. And then he's in that tunnel, and then he pops out of the water with the old man standing above him. None of that's explained or makes any sense.
You know what's great as well during that like vision scene? Like he's in like a hut or something, and so on one side there's the beautiful naked woman, and then on the other side there's like a old crone, right?
Sophie's choice.
He chooses by going like proper, just with his hands, like I choose you, and off he goes.
Yeah, we're not giving any context why he would choose her, what we're supposed to get from this. It's just him trying to show us he's a good person, I guess. Like, oh, I see this hot young chick who's naked, but this old lady, you know, she looks like she needs help. Yeah. So, I mean, they only exist to make him look like a great person, even though it doesn't make any fucking sense at all.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so he survives this vision quest, right? And that's when he, like, because he's off doing this, I guess he's gone off into the wilderness, and so while he's gone, the oil company guys come back and they get into a confrontation with the Eskimos and shoot like the headman or the leader of the camp.
Yeah, John McGinley, for no real reason. He puts his hands up like, "Hey, come on, guys," and then he just lights him up. Yeah, there's no explanation for why you decided to shoot him.
And the thing is, like, he's very again, he's very emotionally invested. Like, you know, he didn't mean to do it necessarily. He sort of panicked and just fired because he's like a total he's like a hot shot and just doesn't really think about these things. And then off they go. And Segal comes back and, like, you know, everyone's super sad, but they've got to go and get revenge. They have to fulfill this quest to stop the oil rig. And I guess they're going to do that by blowing the shit out of it. Yeah, which is
that's how you do it.
It's always a good idea, yeah. And I'm trying to, like, because the middle section of the movie is super flabby, I suppose. Like, there's a lot of just, like, kind of wandering around. They have to go back to the cabin where the old man was because what is he doing again? He's like looking for
there. The other thing they set up in the bar was he said something about, like, I left my gun and my clothes at your place. I don't know why that would happen. He said, yeah, it's in my closet. So I guess they set that up in the bar. But he's there, to get his gun and his clothes, the changing clothes.
Yeah.
That's the only reason they're there.
I love as well, like, because they really work in, like, all this subtle environmental messaging. Like, it flows so naturally into the dialogue. I'm going to see a little
amazingly well.
I love the spirit world and I loved your father, but it doesn't matter right now. What really matters.
I have to pause it, like, I loved your father. It's like I knew him for about 7 minutes.
Yeah, and you cut off the beginning of this. She says, we should go to the authorities and call the media. And then he goes off about this spiritual bullshit that has nothing to do with what she said. And he just starts yelling at her like,
yeah,
what the fuck are you talking about, Segal?
But watch this. He launches into
the cold, hard reality of this world. And that's what we got to deal with. I didn't want to resort to violence.
Yeah, sure you didn't. I believe you.
And then she just, like, sits on the pool table awkwardly.
Choice.
Doesn't say anything.
And I'm not taking any chances this time. Because I can't.
I don't even know what he's saying there. I don't even know.
No, it has nothing to do with what she said at all. I don't know if they changed the script or he just was on a roll, so he said, fuck it, I'm going to go for it, and just...
You know, the funny thing that I sense with this movie, right? I think there is, like, the corpse of a much more complex screenplay here, but it's just been buried under Segal's ego. Because I know he had a pretty big hand in rewriting the scripts. Like, he even said to the screenwriters, it's like, you guys take your first pass at it, and then I'll turn it into something special. And
yeah, that's something he's very notorious for, is even movies that he doesn't write or really have anything to do with, but they need him to get them made, I guess, probably for funding. He will go in and make massive changes to the script. He will change almost everything about a movie and just make it completely incoherent. Because he has to have the scenes where everyone talks about how badass he is. He can't let himself get hurt in a fight. He's got to be the best at everything. He goes in and changes everything for that. He's got to be former CIA, Black Ops. He has this one character he has to be in every single movie, and he will completely fuck up any movie to make sure that's the character he is.
Yeah, because you can see the little like remnants of the character that they had in mind, like when he's at the bar and he drinks quite a bit and he's always got like a hip flask and stuff. And, you know, even the fact that he works with Michael Caine's character, and at first he seems to be quite on board with, like, what they're doing. It's like, yeah, I don't really care too much about, like, the environmental impact or any of that crap. Like, I'm just here to do my job and collect my paycheck. And there's this weird line from him where he's like, for 300 grand a year, I'd fuck anything once. It's like, okay, sure.
That's what he's paid to put out fires, the thousands of fires they get.
Yeah. But there's like the DNA of a more interesting character who is like way more morally gray and probably is a bit of an asshole, and eventually comes around to like a realization of like, oh my God, what we're doing here is wrong. We need to put a stop to it. And that's a character arc, which is something you don't see in Steven Segal movies. And so, like, they erased most of it, but like they left little traces of the original screenplay, I think.
Yeah, because his path doesn't really make sense. Like, we're not really given why he's going from not caring to caring. He just doesn't care, and now he cares.
Yeah.
That's all.
You could even put it down to, like, he doesn't even care about any of that stuff. It's just revenge. Like, they tried to kill him, so now he's going to go kill them. And that's as simple as it is, because that's really what it seems to be from a motivational point of view. Like, they tried to blow him up. He barely
logically survived. Absolutely. Which means it's probably not what he was going for.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet like the barroom scene was 100% him.
Oh,
Like
it better be him. There's nobody else is writing the what does it take to change the essence of a man, and Big Mike
Yeah.
just starts pouring tears. Nobody would ever write that. There's no way anybody but him would write that.
Yeah.
That is unintentionally hilarious.
I do feel kind of bad as well because I feel like the female lead, I'm actually going to have to look up her name because honestly,
Chen?
like
The Asian, the Chen,
yeah, what's her name? So
something Chen.
Joan Chen is yeah. So the character's name is Masu. I cannot recall her ever getting named even in the script, but yeah, either way, like God bless her. She does her best, and I'm sure she's a decent enough actress. But like the script really gives her nothing to do. She pretty much just like watches Segal save the day and do everything, and then there's absolutely no chemistry with her and him. Like I guess they were probably going to go for some kind of romantic angle or at least hint at it. But there's just nothing there. And I feel like the character just has no reason to exist in the script. It's a weird one.
It probably exists because Seagal has like an Asian fetish.
Right.
So in so many of his movies, there's just a random Asian lady that's usually they're all over him. Usually they can't get enough of Seagal. They're fighting over him. They all need that hot ass of his. And I think this is just an early version of this before he was just completely able to do whatever he wanted. I think that's where she comes from. She's supposed to be Native American. I'm pretty sure she's Chinese.
She looks very East Asian rather than
but she
like
mentions
Native American.
being when she's riding a horse. I think one of her only lines is I'm Native American, of course I can ride a horse or something. You know, she's clearly not Native American.
No, she is definitely not. She is Chinese American, apparently, the actress. But yeah, I mean, they like I say, she kind of does her best, I suppose, with the material she's given. But like, I guess he's not big on like giving his female leads things to do. Like he's very much center stage in his movies.
Yeah, their only reason to exist is to lust over him. That is all they do.
Yeah,
and even the other female, the blonde lawyer lady.
Yeah, so interesting you should mention her. So in the wake of this movie, the actress, her name is Shari Shatuk. So she plays like the assistant to Michael Caine. She accused Steven Seagal of various bad things on the set of this. I think she actually said that he harassed and beat her up. Well,
Sounds like Seagal. I 100% believe that. 100% believe that.
Just randomly goes around beating up women.
Yeah, that's Seagal.
Yeah, but again, like the for a character who essentially has no reason to be in the movie, like they gave her a ton of lines and a ton of, I guess, just character that she didn't need.
Yeah, it seemed like they were setting something up and then just forgot about her. And
yeah,
like,
and
oh
shit,
we have this character left. What do we do with her? I don't know. She gets in a fucking car and crashes and explodes. How about that? Okay, sure. Why she explode? No reason. She just crashes. Does Seagal do anything? He just stands there. Really, she just takes off and crashes into like some sort of propane tank or something and explodes for no fucking reason. That is her character.
That's the power of Seagal, though. He doesn't even have to lay a hand on you to kill you. He just has to look at you and decide that your time's up.
She didn't even commit any crimes. She was kind of an asshole lawyer, but she didn't do anything illegal. She didn't need to die. Like Seagal probably wouldn't have killed her if he wasn't Seagal and loves murdering people. He probably wouldn't have killed her. There was no reason for any of that. Yeah, her character, part of it is, I guess, to make Michael Caine seem terrible. I think her first line is something about the settlement for the widow was unnecessarily generous or something. And he's like, oh, that's why I love you. Because he's trying to, take money out of the widows who you're assuming died. Something to do with his business. They have some sort of fault. And so
it's like one step away from like, that orphanage isn't generating any profits for us. Can we just like close the place down?
Burn it down?
Yeah, just murder all the people in it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, so I guess it leads into a slightly flabby middle bit of the movie where they're going from place to place, and then they make their way to the rig because Seagal has figured out his genius plan, which is like if we blow up what do they call it? The preventer, which is just like a safety valve or something.
Yeah, the preventers are basically that. Yeah,
and he's like,
preventers are faulty, and that's what is the whole risk for everything. That's the subpar parts that they're using are the preventers. They've only had 20 years to build this place. I don't know why it's coming down to the wire, but I guess it is.
I know, and like you kind of think to yourself, like, couldn't they just ask for an extension or something? It's like, look, we're almost there. Surely you can give us an extra couple of weeks just to
or explain why it's been 20 years and it's still not ready. That it makes zero sense.
Yeah, because they clearly are pumping oil in other places because one of them just blew up.
Yeah, I think they're pumping oil here. I think they even have oil being pumped at this place that isn't supposed to be working yet. So,
and so they know he's coming because they brought in like these mercenaries led by our Lee Army, who he gives the slip to because like he goes over a cliff with a horse and then just blows up the cliff behind him so they can't follow him. And it's like, oh damn. He sets up like the most impractical traps ever, like claymores and stuff that are hanging from trees. I don't know how that's
a lot of
meant to work.
claymores. He uses a lot of claymores at the oil rig. I don't know why he has all these claymores.
Yeah, he just loves them, I suppose. And it means he doesn't have to put any effort in. Like he can just let the claymores do the work for him. So I suppose that
that's
works.
very safe. Hopefully they set off the claymore. If they don't, then gonna kill some innocent family hiking. But whatever.
Yeah. So they know he's coming, and they fortify the place with all these mercenaries and stuff. And yeah, that's when you get the line about like, oh, he's the most badass man who's ever lived, and like if he gets to the rig, then that's it. We're all toast. And even Billy Bob Thornton's talking about it. And I must admit, like that probably is the line of the movie that made me smile the most, where he's talking about like, should I have my stock of my gun in or out? Because you know, when I kill this guy, I want to feel right about it. I want to feel solid.
Yeah, that's why I don't know if it's just because of Segal being a black hole of acting and everyone else just looks amazing, or if everyone else was just amazing in this movie. But yeah, Billy Bob Thornton, that's his two lines are two amazing lines. It's worth it having him in there.
Yeah.
It's talking about how badass you look. If I have my stock out, I feel like a pussy. I don't want to feel like a pussy when I take him out. Yeah, the whole thing is amazing.
Yeah. And it, you know, it doesn't help them much because like they shoot the elevator that he's in and then it just blows up and kills them both.
He sends a claymore up the elevator.
A claymore, of course, yeah. Of course, another claymore. The man just loves blowing stuff up. And yeah, I like as well with John McGinley where he just throws them into the blades of a propeller. Oh, sorry, the blades of a helicopter. Like they're about to like escape and then he just gets them.
Well, first they blow that's the rear rotor, I think it's called. Anyways, they blow it up, and then it's like perfectly fine when he shoves his face into it. So I have no idea how they didn't realize. You know, nobody noticed that you're blowing this thing up, and then you're killing a guy with it a minute later.
Yeah,
that is the kind of care you get in Seagal movies.
I'm gonna see. I think I might have had the clip as well where Army tries to take on Seagal as well. Let's see if I've got this here. Yeah, I think I've got it here. I just need a couple of seconds for it to load up. Yeah. So this guy has got the drop on Steven Seagal. He is a trained badass mercenary. One of the toughest guys.
I know where this is going. This is another thing you see in every Seagal movie and drives me insane.
Yeah, and I'll see if it loads up in time. Actually, I'll make room for it here.
Exact same move too.
Yeah, it is kind of a cool move, but it would only be cool if it was done like without warning. You know, when the guy doesn't have the drop on him and he just comes around a corner or something, doesn't know he's there.
And the guy's not supposed to be like a weapons tactics expert and would ever do this.
Yeah, I've muted it just because I don't want to get copyright struck. But it's like he's got the drop on him. Shoot him. Shoot him. Do you want to shoot him? No?
Well, he started off like 20 feet away and he just slowly walks up to him.
That is just sad.
The gun's like over Seagal's shoulder when he grabs it. It happens every single time in every movie, multiple times. It's like he's supposed to be some like high rig military guy. There's no way he's going to be that stupid to just walk up and hand the gun to him.
Yeah. And yeah, we get the great scene with Michael Caine. I should actually call him by his real character name. What the fuck is he called? Jennings. That's it. Michael Jennings. Yeah. Because he's still determined to turn this fucking rig on no matter what, even though he knows it's going to blow up, so it doesn't make any sense. And for some reason,
he gets the rights, even if it blows up. As long as it was going, I guess they still keep the rights.
I guess, yeah. And for some reason, they bring the FBI in. I never understood that either. I think that's like I guess, a remnant of a different version of the script where it's like, we need them here as witnesses or something.
So what was happening is they were blaming Segal and the old man, saying they were terrorists, and that's why the other ones blew up. It wasn't because of, the faulty preventers. So I think the FBI was supposed to be there because, we think more terrorism is going to happen because this guy's out there somewhere. It really wasn't explained. I was on like the 12th viewing, then I was like, wait a minute, that might be why they're there.
Because I was watching it like, okay, there's going to be a payoff to this, and it's like, no, there isn't. They just run away.
Yeah,
when everything goes to
they
shit.
do nothing.
Yeah, so they leave. He sets his charges on the preventer, and he's like, no, don't worry, it's going to implode it, so that will prevent an oil spill. Even though
he reversed something, so that then it's not an explosion, it's an implosion, I guess. If you reverse one of the valve, I don't fucking know.
Sure.
He's trying to say something that was supposed to apparently address it. When they realize there's an issue, but they don't know how to solve it, so they just say something. They're like, "Yeah, guys, like we addressed it. Just move on."
Exactly. Yeah, that's lampshading, really, where it's like you draw attention to the problem, then you make the audience aware that it exists, but then you don't solve it. You just be like, "Yeah, well, that's it." But yeah, the whole rig goes up. Like this, it's not just like a little explosion that just collapses this valve or something. Like the whole thing goes in this like apocalyptic firestorm of destruction. And of course, Segal and the girl escape, no problem. All is well with the world.
I mean, they barely escape, which is weird because they set the explosive. Like, why did they set the explosive longer?
Yeah.
Like, they did what they planned to do. Nothing unexpected happened. They set the explosive and still almost died. There's no reason they couldn't have had they could add an hour to that. Nobody's coming.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
Kill yourselves. They just create that for no reason, the whole tension.
Once you've killed all the mercenaries that are protecting the place, and then everyone else has run away because they do. Yeah. Like, everyone freaks out and runs. So
yeah, they're the only ones there.
So yeah, you can take your time, or just instead of blowing it up, just shut it down. It's fine because you've taken control of it. That's all you need to do.
Oh, you don't have the shot of the oil rig, do you? I know if that would catch your eye.
Do you want the destruction of it?
No, well, the incredible Marvel level CGI that they show.
Hold on.
I know if that caught your eye on it.
Oil rig. Yeah, I'll see if I can find it here and just download it quickly. Does it exist here? I'm just looking through YouTube to see if they can furnish me with the clip that I need. It doesn't actually seem to be here, actually. Sadly. Let's see if it's finale, anything. I've got him where he kills Michael Caine just by dropping him into oil. That's the poetic, irony of all this. You see, dies by being killed by the thing that he loves. Yeah, I can't find it here, unfortunately. Yeah. I think I recalled looking for it earlier because it's just like, I kind of want to see this.
It's like the color doesn't match. I mean, the lighting completely doesn't match. The water is like going through it and just moving underneath it. Like there's nothing there. It's hilariously bad. Even for 94 standards, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, because this movie didn't have a tiny budget. Like it wasn't like a lot of his later movies. 50 million, which in 1994 was pretty reasonable, apparently.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good budget, especially when half your movie, nothing's happening.
Yeah. It's probably because they wasted most of it like shooting on location in Alaska and all the delays.
Supposedly it went way over budget. And that's why he was in executive decision. That's the rumor I heard. Is because
there was a lot of fallouts to this movie. I did because I was reading Last Action Heroes, right, and it's actually a really fucking good book, and it details the making of this movie quite extensively. What does it said here? Because he insisted on having a Native American shaman on hand at all times to bless the movie whenever they did a new scene or whatever. So. He actually asked him at one point, do you believe that movies can convey spirituality? The shaman actually hadn't seen any of his movies, but he said that he enjoyed Sherlock Holmes films. So,
okay.
Yeah, good answer, I suppose.
I believe him. That sounds honest.
Yeah. But I think the movie really became notorious because of the speech that Segal gives at the end, where he assembles all the news media, the tribal elders, the oil people,
From what I
everybody, the
can
whole
tell,
world is
it's
there.
just the natives. That's all I see there. It's just the natives, and he's telling them to change their ways. Like, you don't really see the oil people or anything other than just a room full of natives.
There is a few there because there's a few guys in like Texan hats and
Are
stuff,
there?
like really stereotypical, like, you know, they've almost got like 6 shooters that they're just firing into the air, like, yeah, I love oil. But
And I'm sure they're rubbing their chin like, damn, I never thought of that, because Seagal's so persuasive.
but the entire monologue goes on apparently for about 4 or 5 minutes, just him talking,
Sounds
which
about right.
is it's a pretty intense way to end a movie, I think, with Seagal talking. And just essentially lecturing the audience. Like, we talk now about the message and stuff in movies, but man, he pioneered it back in 1994. Seagal was way ahead of the game.
Yeah, I mean, another rumor I heard on that is it was 40 minutes. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that a lot of places. Like, they made him cut it down from a 40-minute speech to whatever it is now. I really want that to be true, and I want there to be that cut out there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if he wanted to do that sort of thing, he maybe should have just made like an environmental documentary or something rather than a movie. But it's just so hard to swallow as well when you've watched this guy blowing up huge chunks of Alaska for like the past 2 hours, and then he's going to give you a big sermon about how you need to preserve the environment and be responsible and stuff. Like, really?
Yeah, there was this, and I think he did Saturday Night Live, and he did something about the environment there. That's the only times I've ever heard him talking about the environment.
That Saturday Night Live episode is the stuff of nightmares. Just
I haven't
because
actually seen the whole thing.
I've never seen all of it. I've just seen like a collection of like maybe the worst bits, but it's so like awkward because there's been plenty of people on SNL that are not funny. In fact, it's practically the norm nowadays. But like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like he somehow sucks all the energy out of the room. Like, whenever he's doing his bits, it's not even that it's not funny. It's just uncomfortable, and you could tell the other performers, like the actual SNL, staff, are not happy with what they're doing. They're like, this doesn't make any sense. It's his
narcissism. There can't be a sketch he's in where anything other than him being the biggest badass that nobody wants to mess with in the entire world. He will refuse to do that. He will not. No self-deprecation, nothing.
Yeah, because
no humor.
He could have had a lot of fun with it, just being like, I'm kind of like the whole, the poor man's Arnold Schwarzenegger or something like that, and just humanized himself a little bit, showed that he's willing to laugh at himself. But it's like, the ego took hold big time, and clearly it did with this movie as well. From what I understand, and certainly from what it seems like in his career, this was like the turning point in his career. Like, from this point onwards, like up until then, it had been nothing but upward momentum, and like quite dramatic in some ways. Like, he'd done, like I say, a string of successful movies in the late 80s. He'd done Under Siege, all great. Did this, it was a flop at the box office. Didn't make it back its production budget, and then pretty much every subsequent movie was either a failure or like he started transitioning to like direct to video after that. And
I think Under Siege 2 did okay. Didn't do like, I don't think Under Siege 1 numbers, but it did okay, and then it was mostly just flops after that. There's Glimmer Man, which did terribly.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I always, for the longest time, I thought Under Siege 2 was actually direct to video because it's got that look about it.
Oh, no, I saw it in the theater.
Yeah, well, it had a budget of 60 million, made 104, so it probably wasn't enough to break even back then. You'd probably be needing
probably on VHS 20. And all that. It probably
I mean,
I think, but not theatrically.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the home video market was a big thing back then, and even probably on Deadly Ground became profitable eventually just through rentals and all that stuff. But then you got Executive Decision, which
isn't
was
really
an odd choice.
It's like all movie.
No, exactly. It was weird for him to just be playing second fiddle to anyone, really.
Well, that's what the rumor was on this, going over budget. That was what they had him do, was being executive decision and die early on. I've heard that many places. I mean, no way to verify that, but I've heard that a lot of places.
Fire Down Below, I think that was direct to video. I am pretty sure.
Was that direct to video?
See, I see in the UK, right, in the late 90s, there was a channel called Channel 5, and they specialized in like things like Steven Segal direct to video movies. Like they would come out in, you know, video release or whatever. And then 6 months later or so, or a year later, they would come on Channel 5, and then you would get them. And I watched a lot of them back then. And I think, let me see. So, was it released? Reception. Oh no, wait a minute. It grossed 6 million in its opening weekend in the United States and Canada, went on to gross 16 million. So a worldwide total of 24.5. It must have been theatrical then, I suppose.
Yeah, thought I remember that coming to the theater, and pretty sure that flopped pretty bad. It was a pretty terrible movie.
And then apparently his last theatrical movie was Exit Wounds. And that was enough to then end his relationship with Warner Brothers. That did 80 million, so that's not terrible.
I thought that did okay.
33 million budget though, so probably
supposed to
broke
be his
even.
big comeback, but then that was just it. He didn't really do anything of note after that.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, he was getting older and larger, and it was getting harder to do the action sequences. And yeah, the work ethic just went down. Although his output went up crazy. Like, where is it? Like, I think it was 2016, right? He had 6 different movies come out that year.
6 or 7 in 2016.
That
you
was
get a lot of
year.
Kind of the later Nick Cage, like he shows up for a minute and then he's a star.
Right.
He's the top build. There's a lot of movies like that. Like Sniper is one of those everyone talks about, but he's probably has 1.5 minutes of actual screen time.
Yeah, he's an interesting one in his career. I think as well, probably all the accusations that came out against him were enough to get main studios to back off from him.
Yeah, I mean, not just the criminal, just the being a total asshole that nobody wants to work with. I've never heard anybody say any kind of good story about him.
No, I think from what I understand, he'd always been quite difficult to work with, and his ego had always been a problem. But it wasn't until probably the 90s that it really took over, because he was probably smart enough to know in his early movies, like, okay, I'm not powerful enough and successful enough yet to really go to town, so I need to keep it under control to some extent.
Yeah, and they can fire him and replace him in his earlier movies. They don't care that much. But when you have a few #1 hits, then they kind of have to put up with you.
Yeah. So it's
I think early on, I think he was doing training. He would train actors. And I guess he broke Sean Connery's wrist for one of the.
He did for Never Say Never Again.
Is it that one?
Yeah.
I'm guessing that was him with some ego thing. Like, oh, sorry, I'm so strong. I didn't mean to break your wrist. I'm just, I can't help it.
I mean, apparently Connery had done something to piss him off. And Connery's a pretty big personality himself. So I could imagine him being.
He's not gonna put up with that shit.
Yeah, exactly. He's not gonna bow down to Segal or anything. And he's just like, fine, I'm just gonna break your wrist then. So there's a lot of stories about that sort of thing. And there was always an urban myth as well about him that they got him his first role because some producer had said I'm so fucking good at what I do, I can make anyone a star, even this chump over here, and picked out Segal, and he's like, cool, let's turn him into a star just because I can prove that I can do it. But apparently that wasn't true. He did actually impress people.
A lot of stories like that about Segal, and it's hard to tell just because he's so hateable that those stories spread because everyone wants to shit on him because how bad he is. Yeah. There's a lot of stories like that. Like his doesn't even really have a black belt. They just passed him to get rid of him because they want him to go away. Stories like that.
Just leave us alone.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd like to believe it because he's a terrible person. But when you're a terrible person, terrible news is going to spread. Gossip is going to be typically bad about you, and I don't know how you could even verify something like that.
You did mention as well that his hair has gone through its own character arc over the years, and this is This is its final form, I would say. It's he's locked in the look now, and it's it's a powerful one, I would say.
You don't happen to have the one with him being almost completely bald, which was like in the maybe 1990s.
Oh yeah, hold on. Yeah, so that'd be like late 80s. I can find it if you just give me a few moments. Yeah, I know as well. Like he. Oh yeah, here's. I've got a good comparison one here for you. Actually, let me just bring it up. Oh yeah, so yeah, I know him and Van Damme had got into a lot of shit over the years as well. Like because Seagal was kind of pretty disparaging about him.
Yeah, you could say that.
Apparently, he actually challenged him to a fight at one point, which is quite impressive. And it was at a party at Stallone's house, of all places.
Yeah, that one I actually believe because Seagal's even talked about that. So the story was that Van Damme was pissed because Seagal's always been, shit talking him. And so Van Damme said, all right, let's take it outside. Prove you can beat me up. And he waited out there for a while. And, Seagal went out the back door, disappeared. And Van Damme tracked him down to a nightclub or something, challenged him again, and did the same thing.
Yeah.
Stallone's the one that told that story, which makes me think it's probably true. But on his Lawman show, where he's pretending to be a cop, one of the guys actually asked him about it. And his story was very similar, but he said that Van Damme looked like he was on drugs or something, and he told him to come back when he was sober.
Yeah.
So
I've heard that.
that kind of verifies that it actually happened. I find it unlikely he cared about, Van Damme's sobriety, but that's pretty good verification that actually is true.
Oh yeah, and I think Van Damme would have absolutely destroyed him if they gotten into a real fight. Like,
oh yeah, Van Damme
differences aside, like he's
knows how to fight. Seagal clearly doesn't. Everything he does tells me he does not know how to fight. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. 100% natural.
Yeah, there's stories about that from Tom Arnold. Something about they were on like a houseboat or something after the filming, and everyone hated Seagal, and he was being a complete dick to people. And he walked out of the houseboat into the water because he didn't realize that was not land there. He thought it was another room or something. And I guess he falls into the water and black shit's just all over his face from his hair. I'd love to believe that's true, but I've heard that from Tom Arnold telling that to people. I've heard that from a few different people. But there's also that story about, the greatest script ever written. Who wrote it? I did. But it's always been different people who's apparently heard that. That's why I'm not sure if that one's actually true, because it's always a different person who he's telling this to and is talking to him about that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting as well. Like when I'm reading the entry here about what he was doing on Deadly Ground. So, so he was always looking for affirmations and stuff from the crew and everything after he did anything, basically, because he's starring in it and directing in it. So he says, after calling cut on a shot, Seagal would frequently turn to the crew and ask, "Wasn't that the best thing you ever saw?" Upon performing a scene in which he ran through some debris, he strolled over to a huddle of people and said, "Man, I really nailed that, didn't I?"
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I would like to just spend a day with Seagal. I would love to see what he's like as an actual person. Because I can't imagine a person like this having a normal life, like going to the grocery store, just doing mundane things. I cannot picture how that works out.
No, very much. I'd just be interested to have a candid conversation about, his work and his career and stuff. And
I want to ask him about the plots to his movies, his later movies that make no damn sense. I really would love to talk to him, find out The Foreigner. What the fuck is The Foreigner? I don't know if you've seen that movie.
No, I have not, unfortunately.
That will destroy you if you see it. That movie is so insane. It's literally like a bunch of kids got, cameras and are just playing out there. It's a bunch of, and then this, and then this, and then I kill everybody. And then the next scene I come in and then I kill everybody. It is such a bizarre, insane movie. Plot points are brought up that have never been brought up before, and it's supposed to be a major twist, but you had never knew this was even a thing, and then it's never brought up again. everything about that movie. If you guys out there watching, go look up The Foreigner, watch that, see if you can make any sense of that movie. It's like almost Neil Breen level.
Hold on a second. Sorry, my camera died there for a moment. Yeah, I mean, is that where he's ended up? Like, is this the point that Steven Seagal's career is at? Is he even actually going to make any more movies? Because certainly when when I'm looking at like his filmography, the last movie he did was 2019, Beyond the Law.
So he got in trouble with the SEC, some sort of like crypto something with them, that he broke some law and he owes them like $1 million, and he just didn't show up. He's in Russia now. So he has something going on with them that he owes a ton of money to, and I don't think he's coming back to America. So if he makes another movie, I mean, they're all in Romania because it's cheap there anyways, but it's unlikely that he's doing anything where America can get any kind of hands on that money.
Yeah. What is this thing as well? Like, where, I keep hearing these rumors that he's like mixed up with organized crime and stuff. Like, so the Gambino crime family, apparently, like they were mixed up in a lot of the movies that he did. Apparently they helped to fund quite a few of them in exchange for getting like some other guys involved in it and shit like that.
I guess Will Nasso, who was some executive producer of a lot of his things, actually started the production company, Steamroller, with him. I think it was called something else. He was caught up with them and kind of got Seagal involved. And after all that happened, I guess they were trying to still make Seagal pay, and they were going to like kill him if he didn't pay. So he had this whole thing with the CIA, I'm not CIA, sorry, the FBI, about them trying to shake him down. So people kind of misconstrue that as he's working for the mob.
Right.
Not exactly, but yeah, they did try and shake him down, and he had this whole thing. There's stories about that, about him breaking down on stand crying, which I would love to believe, but I haven't seen video of that. I think it would be federal. I don't know if usually don't do that in federal trials. Love to see the video of that, of him just breaking down crying over the mafia being mean to him.
I mean, I will say, if nothing else, this man has lived a wild life.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Completely agree. Seagal, that's why it's really hard to get a read on him. He does not seem like a normal human being with his weird narcissism. Because it's not even just him, it's his movie characters. It's like he believes those are him. And whatever they are is what he is. So as long as they're badass and nothing bad happens to them, then he'll just shit all of them if he doesn't care. But they have to be badass. They can't get hurt. It's kind of like a Vin Diesel, like you hear about with the Fast and the Furious. Only
like he's got it in his contract, like he can't lose a fight.
Never lose a fight. And supposedly The Rock does too. To me, that seems more like he's protective over that franchise. I don't think that's a standard thing for Diesel, like, because that's his thing now. He's basically going to be his whole thing is going to be the Fast and the Furious.
Oh yeah, he's going to write that until the end of his career and then just retire because, like, why not? But yeah, I think with Seagal, like guys like say Van Damme or Nick Cage or whatever, like they kind of embrace the meme, and it's like, yeah, I can make fun of myself and acknowledge, hey, my career might have gone off the rails at times, and I haven't always made the best movies, and it's all a bit of fun, really. And so you kind of empathize with them because of that, because it's like, everyone has ups and downs in their lives and their careers, and it's fine. And if you don't try and pretend otherwise, then there's a certain honesty to that's kind of worthy of respect. But Seagal's, I guess, a different kettle of fish. And you'd think for a guy like in his late 60s, early 70s, he would be a bit more, I guess, reflective and just like, hey, all that stuff I did back in the day was kind of dumb, wasn't it? But it was fun.
He's a broken person. If you haven't seen Jean-Claude Van Johnson on Amazon Prime, it was like one of the first TV shows that they were trying to do. They did like a bunch of like was it pilots, and then like the ones that got the most views would get a season. So it got a full season. Fucking amazing. It is him just basically making fun of himself for the entire season. It is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Seagal would never do that in his entire life. The closest thing to a joke against him would be in Exit Wounds, where he tries to stand up in that desk. and it's too small, so it's like sticking to him. That's the
Right.
closest
Okay.
thing I've seen to Seagal ever laughing at himself. And I'm sure someone would probably like, "Nah, man, it's because you got so many muscles. You're so powerful. That's the reason why it won't come off." Like, I'm sure he has to be coaxed into things. I think
Yeah.
there's a story about Glimmer Man, one of his co-stars, like had to talk him into killing him because, like, not Buddha, the Dalai Lama said, "I don't like all the killing in your movies." So Seagal said, "I'm not going to kill anyone ever again in my movies." And the guy, he was supposed to kill this actor who was a serial killer, but he was refusing to do it. So the studio made him go talk him into actually having to kill the guy. But of course, he kills like 15, 20 people in that movie. So his thought process makes absolutely no sense to anybody. I can't see him as being a normal, rational, sane human being.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to, you know, as you say, spend a couple of days with him and just see how he lives his life day to day. And what does he get up to?
I
It'd
feel
be
like he always
interesting.
has an entourage around him.
I
I think
mean,
they
I
just
can
feed him a
imagine
bunch of bullshit about how great he is.
that.
I would love to
Yeah.
think somebody's told him to watch one of my videos. I can't imagine they have the guts, though, to tell him that. I figure they'd be kicked out of the entourage if they told him about any of my videos.
Are you worried that he might track you down one day and challenge
Oh,
you
I
to a
welcome it.
fight?
I welcome it. Anytime, any place, Seagal. I will fight you anytime, any place. When it comes to 70-year-old men, I get really brave.
That is true, yeah. Morbidly obese 70-year-old
Oh,
man
yeah.
as well.
He ain't
That's
walking.
extra advantage. I like this. There's a line from the book as well where it talks about his relationship with Vladimir Putin as well. It says, he's spoken of great admiration for Vladimir Putin, calling him one of the greatest world leaders. In 2023, Putin returned the favor, bestowing on Segal Russia's Order of Friendship Award for his humanitarian work. Putin hasn't been quite so effusive about his filmography, with his spokesman reported as saying, "I wouldn't necessarily say that he's a huge fan, but he's definitely seen some of his movies."
Wow, look at that. I like the honesty.
I know, yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, he had a Russian fetish face too, where there was things about Russians in all of his movies, and even if the Russians were the bad guys, they were still super honorable and
Yeah.
were still on the right. Even if they were the bad guys, they were still doing what was actually right, like almost like an Ed Harris and The Rock thing, where you're like, oh man, yeah, I see why he's doing it. I get it. And I think
I mean, maybe there's a hot Russian woman in his movies. Like, I imagine he'd go in for that.
it's been Romanian mostly, either Asian or Romanian, because I think you go down
Okay.
to Romania and I think you just hire people super cheap there, because that's why I want to say like 90% of his movies come out of Romania, even when it's supposed to be somewhere else. It's clearly Romania. They're the same exact locations as every other movie he's been in.
Yeah.
He has one house he uses in all of his movies, no matter what country it's supposed to be. There's like the same 6 actors that have been in like 20 of his movies.
Just got to sell everything. Yeah, I don't know if you were on when we were talking about this, but like apparently in Under Siege, like Erica Eleniak jumping out of that birthday cake topless, that was his idea. And
really?
he was really advocating for them to have a love scene on top of like one of the shells for like the big battleship guns. That they would just stop the middle of this like tense life or death situation and have a quick fuck. And it was Gary Busey of all people who had to talk the producer and the director out of it, like, and protect her, I guess, from Seagal.
Sounds like Gary Busey. He's very down to earth. Like, what's logical.
When Gary Busey is the voice of reason on your set, you got problems, man.
I'm surprised she wasn't supposed to jump out of the cake. I mean, wasn't her big thing. She was like a Playboy centerfold or something.
Yeah, but I think he probably would have just like found her unconscious or something and woke her up, or maybe not woken her up as Seagal might have done. I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, he definitely wanted like an impactful moment with her. And you know, I credit him for that. So thank you, Steven.
Yeah,
we enjoyed that scene.
That was supposed to be something like that in Commando. I think I don't know if it was Arnold. Somebody talked him out of it. Where he's trying to save his daughter's life, and like him and the Chong, Ray Dong Chong. Yeah, they're supposed to have a love scene while his daughter's being kidnapped and about to be murdered. There's, I think, like on the plane ride.
Fucking hell.
I don't know. Yeah, that's what somebody was like, dude. His daughter, man, he's not gonna bang her with his daughter being held hostage, about to get killed any minute.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing gets women hotter as well than like being kidnapped by some insane Austrian guy who's like, "Yeah, I'm got to go and rescue my daughter." Honestly,
Well, it's Arnold,
Sure,
so
okay.
I wouldn't blame her. It was Arnold. Come on,
yeah, that was
it was
peak
85,
Arnold as
and it
well.
was Arnold. You know, he was at his peak
Yeah.
back then.
He really was, yeah. No, movies like that have got, even to some extent, even things like On Deadly Ground, they've got a certain charm to them that you just don't see nowadays that I kind of miss. Like, even when they're
Yeah.
bad, they're still entertaining somehow.
Oh yeah. I remember watching Steel when it came out and thinking this. I mean, I think it's a nostalgia thing too, or we got sick of the movies. But when I did a Steel review, I could not believe how much I enjoyed Steel. The movie with Shaq playing
Yeah.
the Superman. I remember it being terrible, and I watched it. I was like, oh my god, I like this. It's very stupid, but this is very fun. Why is this so much fun? I think that I don't know if there's just no fun in movies anymore, and we just miss that. Or if the 90s crazy action we just got desensitized to because we were just seeing it so much that it didn't mean as much back then. But yeah, these old movies that we thought were bad are actually not nearly as bad. On Deadly Ground still shit, obviously, but a lot of the other ones were good.
Yeah, and I think maybe there's a kind of innocence to a lot of movies back then that nowadays they seem so tired and cynical and just too self-aware. Like they can't even have fun with a bit of honest like storytelling because like they have to be making self-referential jokes and like postmodernist crap and stuff. And it sucks the enjoyment out of all of it. Whereas, yeah, I guess things like the 80s and 90s were a more innocent time when movies had a kind of earnestness about them, so that even when they were shit, it's like, well, I can see what they were striving for there. They were trying to do something. Good on them.
Yeah,
You
I mean
know?
it's shit, but it's still fun. You can be a bad movie that you're like, well, this is very stupid. How do you not realize? How do you not know that's Shaq? Shaq's your son. You don't recognize him right there. And yeah, there's some enjoyment to that. He's like, okay, I actually like it. That's so stupid. I actually like it now.
Yeah. No, there's movies back then which are just guilty pleasures, and it's like I can totally enjoy them anytime. I can watch Broken Arrow tomorrow and just have a blast
John
with
Woo,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anything John Woo.
Yeah, I mean, he knew how to do an action scene. That's for sure. Yeah, and he had that short-lived period in Hollywood where they tried to put him in everything.
I mean, his movies are pretty solid. Hard Target was god level. I think that's got Sven Thorson. What else? He got Broken Arrow. He had Face Off.
Face Off, yeah.
That's pure gold.
Yeah. This one baffles me. Drinker, why don't you like Dolph Lundgren?
Why don't you like Dolph Lundgren?
I do like Dolph Lundgren. He's a fucking legend.
Okay. Thanks, Alexander. You convinced him.
He's insanely smart for a start. Like he's got like multiple degrees from
like a master's
Stockholm
in like
University.
biochemistry or something.
Yeah, like chemical engineering, biochemistry. Like he has done it all. He is way more intelligent than I'll ever be. Obviously,
yeah,
develops.
You got more muscles though, so you got him on that.
Yeah, yeah, sure, yeah. But and I feel like he got a bit of a bum rap in his career, really, because he did Rocky, which kind of catapulted him into into global recognition. But it's like, well, okay, what do I do now? Like, because I don't just want to play a villain. How do I capitalize on that? And unfortunately, the movie you picked was Masters of the Universe, which, yeah. And essentially that kind of stifled his career before it even really got started, which was unfortunate.
Yeah, he seems like he got stuck into the B movie genre, and I do think he is too good for that.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that.
I think he just he came along kind of later in the game. Like guys like Stallone and Schwarzenegger were already pretty well established, and he was just kind of in the same mold, like a big, muscular kind of very much like Arnold, this sort of Aryan stereotype, I suppose, like the perfect guy. And he didn't really get an opportunity to branch out, which is, yeah, it's a shame for him. But yeah, it's the way it goes sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah. How does Seagal get all those movies and Dolph gets nothing? That's bullshit.
I mean, Dolph has done a ton of movies by himself, but they've all been like direct-to-video shite.
Oh yeah, very low budget, and they're still enjoyable. But yeah, he should have had a better career. Absolutely.
I loved Universal Soldier, and I will die on that hill. It's so much fun, and
The sequels he's in are good too.
I
don't know if
mean,
you've seen the later ones. I think Regeneration.
no,
that one's
because I
actually
saw the one that Van Damme was in. Like, so he did Universal Soldier 2, and then they did this weird, like, they recast the main actor or the main character, and then did like a whole series of like Universal Soldier movies that were just, done on a
they did some
budget of like $100.
direct TV
Yeah.
ones. Van Damme did one or what was it? The Return, which was not good.
Yeah.
But then later, like 10 years later, they did, I think it was Regeneration and then like Day of Reckoning, which are really good movies. Very, very different tone. Not just from the original, but from each other. Like Regeneration's a dark, dark, serious movie. It's actually really good.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, then Day of Reckoning's like a horror movie. It's doesn't feel like the Universal Soldier movie. It's a horror movie, but it's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. But yeah, I'm looking at his filmography here. I keep forgetting he was in Johnny Mnemonic. He was like the
the
villain
priest.
Yeah, that was a weird role for him.
That whole movie
Men
was
of
weird.
War. That is a movie that I keep forgetting about, and a lot of people never talk about. But that is really fucking good. It's a pretty low budget action movie about a group of mercenaries that are sent to this island, I think, to like clear out the natives so that some fucking company can take over the place or whatever, and they rebel against it and turn against them and like end up fighting a guerrilla war. And it's actually really good action.
I think that was 94 too, right? Same year as Deadly Ground?
It was, yeah, Men of War, 1994, yeah. It was a direct-to-video movie, unfortunately, but yeah, I remember it being pretty good.
I mean, 94 was a great year for movies, just in general.
Well, it gave us On Deadly Ground, didn't it? So,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it did also. It gave us Pulp Fiction as well, to be fair. So that's not bad.
Gave us Time Cop.
Yes,
Greatest movie in history.
That might have been. I think that might have been Van Damme's biggest earner. I think that was the most successful movie he did.
Or him as the main star. Yes, I mean he's done like Expendables too. I'm sure made more.
Yeah, but I mean,
Rise of Gru or something he was in recently probably did a lot more because those make tons of money.
Yeah.
As the main star from the 90s, it was Time Cop.
Yeah.
I think Street Fighter was 94 also, and it was close.
Yeah, that was 94. And I like the fact that he was coked out of his mind most of the movie.
It was very clear if you've seen the movie.
Yeah. Again, that fits into that category, right, of movies that are garbage. But man, they're entertaining. Like I love just watching them. There's something really fun about them.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I hated that when it first came out, but lately when I saw it, I was like, this is so stupid. I love this. I can't get enough of this.
Yeah.
Double Team's kind of like that. It's actually a really good movie, except they decide, hey, let's stuff Dennis Rodman into it. And his character does nothing for the movie, but he's like kind of billed as like this is a buddy movie, even though he just shows up at the very beginning and the very end. And he's terrible in everything he's in. But despite him, that's a solid movie.
Yeah, I mean, Van Damme did a few movies like that where there was two of him, like Double Impact. I remember that being quite good fun.
Yeah. That kind of became one of his things as being multiple Van Dammes.
Yeah, it was like either a fighting tournament or like multiple versions of himself. Like that was his staples, I suppose.
Yeah. He had The Quest, which was kind of a blatant ripoff of Bloodsport, but he decided, hey, let's make some Indiana Jones before that, and then we'll do Bloodsport.
Yeah,
that was a weird movie. That was one he wrote and directed.
I could tell it was like some kind of passion project for him, though. Like he really tried to infuse it with a bit of meaning. You know, the fact that it cuts to the present day where he's like an old man and stuff. Roger Moore's in it for some reason.
Bond is in it, yeah.
It was an odd one, but oh well. Weird. You know, he pursued his passions, I suppose, in life. But I tell you what, while we're here, and we've got a bunch of super chats that have come in while we've been doing this. So if you've got a little bit of time, perhaps we can answer them.
Let's do it.
Okay, RRTNZ says, for Michael Caine, this was a career low, worse than Jaws the Revenge, mostly because Segal was a worse actor than the shark. The only good part is Chuck Norris's cameo as the exploding refinery. True, and yeah, he killed
Those
it.
are facts. Those are facts.
I loved the quote. I always loved this about Michael Caine. He was asked about Jaws: The Revenge and what he thought about the movie, and he said, "Well, I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's terrible. But I have seen the house that it paid for, and it's lovely."
I respect that.
Yeah, he just did it purely for a payday, and I'm pretty sure this was the same deal.
Yeah, I mean, people act like actors aren't allowed to, do something for money, but everyone else does. They do jobs for money. Like, it's one thing if you're going to try and trick people into spending money they don't have, but if you're just making a movie that's shit to get a lot of money for it, more power to you.
And ultimately, it's the studio that's paying you because they pay you before the movie's even out.
Mhm.
Like, they have agreed to pay you in advance. And if you can take money off of them and they're dumb enough to pay you, then sure, go for it. Why not?
Absolutely.
Blue Collar Loser says, first time seeing Space Ice. So you pick this movie out of all the Seagal ones, Law? I always remember the over-the-top vice grip scene on the old man. Yeah. Like, that was a brutal scene. It's like, why brutalize this poor old man so much?
Completely unnecessary, too. Like, they didn't have to show any of that.
I always liked about this movie as well, because God bless, like, 90s idea of technology. He's an old man living out in a cabin in the woods, but somehow he's got like a cutting-edge computer with high-speed internet access to be able to download all these files from the company network.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the good thing about computers back then. They do whatever you want them to do.
Yeah. Well, because you could fool people so easily, because audiences themselves, the average person didn't know much about computers. And so, you could just say anything you wanted. Like, oh man, they've hit us with 20 megabytes of RAM. What do we do? Like, okay.
Yeah.
Normal people would just be like, yeah, that sounds impressive. Cool. Cave Gentleman says, drunk happy face emoticon. Thank you. Michael Ackerman says, this is what happens when you pollute the planet. Seagal on SNL. Yeah, he was going for it.
God. There's a story about that, right? Where he was trying to make them do a bit where a lady's at a therapist because she got let's see how to say this, snuggled because it's YouTube. I don't get demonetized. And then the joke is that the therapist tries to molest her as well. That's the joke.
What a joke, Steven.
That he was pitching that as like, oh, people are going to find that funny because therapists are bad. And that was his idea for a funny skit. Yeah, that's comedy gold, bro. Yeah, good job.
Like I say, man, if you watch some of the highlights of it, I don't know if you even know if it's classed as highlights, but it's like the audience is just given nothing when he's doing stuff. Like, normally they'll clap for anything on Saturday Night Live, but like this time it's like it sucks all the oxygen out of the room. It's uncanny. And apparently is it Lorne Michaels who produces SNL, or at least he did back then. He said, like, pretty much any host that we've had, I would have them back again. Steven Segal is like the only one I would never ask to host again.
Yeah, I think Nicolas Cage was on there doing a monologue, and that was one of the jokes. Like, they had him just being like terrible, being really sexist and saying terrible things. And then he says, oh, Cage says, I can't believe it. That was the worst host ever. And Lauren said, no, that was Steven Seagal. Like that, and that was part of the monologue.
Right. So, that's brilliant. Next one is Night Party Crasher King says, reason Seagal dies in executive decision was because the studio made him do it to pay back the losses on this film. He cried when he read the script. I hope that's true.
Yeah, I've heard that I think Leguizamo was telling a story about how his fans were going to be devastated if he died in this. And he was trying to talk him out of having his character die because his fans he couldn't put his fans through that.
Yeah. I mean, like, how could you cope with it? But didn't he at least persuade them to give his character a more like heroic death? Because initially he was just going to get killed when the plane crashed. And it's like, no, he voluntarily sacrifices himself to save everyone else.
Oh, I didn't know about the original way he was supposed to die. But yeah, that's how he does die.
Yeah, but I think it's more like it's a knowing sacrifice rather than just, he couldn't make it on board the plane or whatever.
Oh, that would have been better. They should have just taken that out and changed it. He just gets shot walking out there. Or has a heart attack or stroke or something.
Or walk straight into like the rotor blades of a helicopter or something.
Yeah, something where he died of his own stupidity. That'd be gold.
Farewell Thunderchild says, Clint versus Steven is fun, but nothing compared to Arnold tricking Stallone into taking on Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, 4D chess at its best. Yeah, that was genius.
Was it that? I thought it was over the top. Was it both?
No, it was Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. He pretended, like, because he'd read the script and he knew it was garbage. And Stallone was really hunting for a comedy script because he wanted to compete with Arnold in comedy as well. It's like, well, Arnold's done Twins. He's done, what's the other one where he's pregnant in it?
Junior, I think that was later, wasn't it? Junior?
Maybe Junior, yeah. But he'd done Twins and, like, it'd been a really successful comedy. Apparently that was the highest earning movie of Schwarzenegger's career because he got a back-end deal on the profits. But anyway.
Twins? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because normally instead of taking a flat fee, he's like, well, I get 10% of the profits or something, and the movie was crazy successful. So,
you mean biggest earner for him?
Yes, okay. Yeah, for him. Yeah. Anyway, like Stallone wanted to prove, like, well, I can be funny as well, and he's looking for a script, and then Arnold saw this, and he was like, no, this is garbage, but I'm going to pretend that I really want it and put the word out. And then Stallone was like, brilliant. Well, if Arnold wants to do it, I'm going to steal this from him. And so he did it, and yeah, the rest is history. Stallone did not try to do comedy again.
And what was his excuse for over the top? My God. That at least made sense for how he did that movie. Yeah, I guess 80s, I guess. Just 80s. That's all we got.
Maybe it's just like, look, I've got big muscles in my arms and I just want to prove how strong I am. Don't know.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
What's the next one? Yeah. Party Crasher says, Seagal constantly says, I don't want violence, but has more guns than John Matrix and enough explosive stockpile to blow up the whole mountain. I know, right? He doesn't want violence, but he's ready for it when it comes for him.
Not clear why he has all those explosives, especially the claymores. Those aren't going to be useful in doing anything other than murdering people. I mean, they shoot a bunch of little balls out everywhere. Like that's
not going to be useful for demolition. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not putting out a fire with that. You're not doing anything other than murdering people with that.
George M says, Drinker, will you ever have a review of Twin Peaks? Probably not realistically, because I haven't watched it since like the 90s and I've got no real desire to go back to it. And I feel like at this point, what can I really say about it that hasn't already been said? Party Crasher says, YouTube won't let me send the link, but there's a hilarious story by Rob Schneider about Steven Seagal on the Howard Stern show. If you look it up, it's about 1 minute 50 into the video. All right, I will check that out after this. Daffy Duck says, I still had more fun with this than The Acolyte. I mean, yeah, exactly. You know, you're probably going to have more fun with a colonoscopy than The Acolyte. So that is a low bar. 2 words.
The Acolyte.
Yeah. 2 words says, fun facts about this movie. The ego battle between Svel O. Thornson and Seagal left Sven knocked out cold. Don't forget the cameo by Irvin Kershner. What, did they actually get into a real fight? Is that true? Hold on, I'm gonna have to look.
No, because Seagal's still alive, so there's no way that would happen.
Yeah, I mean, Sven was a big fucking dude.
He was like a strong man.
Yeah, and that's he was a bodybuilder and a strongman. So, oh yeah, here we go. When shooting a scene together a day or two later, Seagal hit Sven in the throat, resulting in Sven being knocked out for 3 or 4 seconds. It looks so realistic that Seagal decided that Sven's character Otto died, and Sven's remaining scenes were cut from the film. Wow. I like that. He just decided that he died, and so that's it. Sure. You're out of the movie. I mean, what can I even say?
There's nothing to say. I 100% believe it. Don't question any of that.
Yeah. Party Crasher says, the studio execs came out and confirmed the executive decision story. It was punishment because On Deadly Ground went tens of millions over budget. That is cool if that's the case then.
Seems like a light punishment, though. Tens of millions of dollars to show up for just first third of a movie.
I think it's the humiliation. Like his ego just wouldn't allow him to do it. Yeah, and they obviously knew how to get to him, so it makes sense. Paul Colton says Seagal has a daughter, Ayako Fujitani, with a Japanese woman, his first wife and martial arts instructor, and she stars in the Gamera trilogy from the 90s.
In the what trilogy?
Gamera?
I don't know what that is.
I do
Unless
not
she has a
know that.
cameo in the Patriot movie of his.
Okay.
But I haven't heard of that.
Colin says, have we already talked about his album that he put out, Songs from the Crystal Cave? Absolute ass. The song Strut was special, to say the least. Yeah, he did have a music career, didn't he?
I wouldn't call it a career. He put out some music. I don't know. I don't think anybody bought him. Strut is kind of infamous for being. It's a Segal song. Like, it's almost so stupid it can be enjoyable.
I want to go to a Segal concert. I want to see him packing out arenas and just crushing it, because I think
Yeah,
he can
good
do
luck
it.
getting on that waiting list.
Yeah. Some random guy says, $250 dusted on Az, no regrets. Drinker, we be souls apart. Good luck on your books and hope your wee little channel takes off. Time Cop, underrated. Thank you very much, man. You know, I'm doing my best with this YouTube thing. Maybe one day it'll pan out for me, but appreciate the support. And yeah, Time Cop, that is... I'm torn on this movie. I really am, because the resolution makes absolutely no sense. The way, like, he kills the villain makes...
He turns him into jelly.
Yeah, it's Van Damme logic, okay? Just go with it.
You can spin kick someone into jelly. Easy.
Yeah. I think my favorite bit is when the guy gets frozen by the liquid nitrogen and Van Damme just kicks his arm off.
After his body falls off?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the jelly, that's supposed to be like the whole... No, I'm not even going to try it. It's Van Damme spin kick. It's a badass spin kick that does it. It has nothing to do with time. It's just Van Damme can do that.
If he kicks you hard enough, you will just turn into jelly and evaporate.
Yes.
That's how it works.
Yes.
Arthur P.
I've seen it before.
Yeah. Yeah. Only when I get really angry. He says, Space Ice and Drinker, don't forget Time Cop. Yeah, legendary Time
never
Cop.
forget Time Cop.
We'll have to cover it. We'll have to cover it at some point. Claudio Rogajan says his name is actually pronounced Seagull, like the bird. Well, tell that to him.
Yeah. That's a rumor. I hear it was Seagull, and then he heard somebody with a similar name with Seagal, and he just liked it, so he just changed his last name. I'd like for that to be true, because that sounds like the little kid he is. Love for that to be true.
Blue says, what I said about Steel, I feel about Venom 3. I.e., it's so dumb that it's entertaining. I can get that for sure. Kwang Su says, Stallone did one good comedy called Oscar. Was it good, though? I heard that it totally bombed and it was shit, but...
It wasn't good, no. Yeah. Demolition Man had some comedy. And Rob Schneider.
It did, yeah. I mean, it fucking hell, that movie was like a premonition about the world that we live in today. Like, we are one step away from the world of Demolition Man right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
All we need is a violation of the verbal morality statute to watch our swearing, and we're done.
Some Wesley Snipes can always use Wesley Snipes.
Yeah. Mitch Meetings says, hey, Space Ice, does this count, of course, credit? Or, sorry, does this count for course credit? I don't know.
No. You get no course credit for this.
Joe Blow says, my two favorite YouTubers. Awesome. Thank you, man. Claudia Rogajan says, the name thing is real. Segal is Jewish. Really? I thought he was like a Buddhist or something.
No, well. I've heard, he's Jewish and I think Russian as well.
Why not? He's everything. He's a citizen of the world.
He's whatever he wants to be at any given time.
Yeah. He's more of a state of mind, really, than a man. Party Crasher says, weird fact, the owner of my local comic book store actually met Segal when he was practicing martial arts. He's personally seen Segal get his ass beat. Nice. Surely not. Surely that's never happened in our world.
I would love to see that.
I would too. Why did no one record it?
Yeah.
And Dog says, Drinker, can you please explain the pure genius of Eric Roberts to Space Ice? He is blind to his acting perfection. All hail JCVD. JCVD is a fucking brilliant movie. I love that one.
Yeah, it is.
That is Van Damme being as honest about himself as I think he's ever going to be. And it's some good stuff. I like that film. Eric Roberts, I'm not sure if I can explain the acting genius of him fully because what can I say about Eric Roberts? he overacted the shit out of Best of the Best. I remember that back in the day. Like, he was crying his way through the whole finale of that movie. He was good in Runaway Train with John Voight. I remember that being pretty good.
Yeah. He was in The Specialist. He was like built up to be the main villain, but then dies halfway through. The
Yeah.
whole thing was odd.
He quite often shows up as a kind of mobster heavy type guy in a lot of movies that you know, relatively small roles, and then he's gone. But
Yeah, he shows up in the latest Van Damme movie. Just really awkwardly. Just for no reason, he just orders a taco, and that's it. It's just a scene, he orders a taco, and then it leaves. It's really bizarre, and it really takes you out of the movie.
I wonder how much he got paid for doing that, just to get Eric Roberts to come in and do it.
Probably got him on Fiverr, be my guess.
Yeah. But, well, that was the last of the super chats right there. So, my friend, I want to say thank you for coming on tonight. It has been an absolute,
sir.
It's been a joy to explore the glorious world of Steven Seagal with you. And
absolutely. Always down for bringing Seagal down a notch.
Yeah. But I think the people have spoken. And if we do this again, it might be a good idea to do Time Cop, because it seems like a lot of people want us to cover it. So perhaps at some point.
There is never a time I don't want to talk about Time Cop. I'll just say that.
Perfect. Nice. And well, for everyone else that's joined us tonight, thank you. It's been a real pleasure. It's been nice to bring back Happy Hour, because it's been a long time since I've done it. And it's not like we were necessarily happy about this movie, but we were happy to talk about it. So that is something. And yeah, we'll look forward to doing more of these in the future. But thank you for the super chats. But for now, that is all we've got for today. So go away now.